If you're feeling stuck or like there's something that's holding you back from taking action, there's something holding you back from being the most authentic version of you, then what is happening is there's old paradigms that are in place keeping you stuck, keeping you frustrated, and literally blocking you from experiencing and manifesting your dream life. Now in this video, I'm going to show you exactly step by step what you can do to remove the most common blocks that you may have from doing and being the person that you came here to be. And I'm going to show you what those blocks are and exactly how to remove them so that you can finally move on and finally start to manifest the life of your dreams. Now, first off, just to give this context, I just got doing literally a week-long, 2 hours a day pretty much of live coaching. I was helping people learn how to go full-time doing what they love. And the reason I'm saying that is I've been able to see the common patterns of what people are moving through or having challenging with. So a lot of that information that I learned there, I'm gonna be using in this video to help you move out of the old and into the new. Now, one of these, and probably the one that held me back from the longest time, was that of procrastination. So the energy and the vibration of procrastination is that we keep telling ourselves, oh, I'll get to that eventually. One day I'll do that, but not today. I'll do it soon, but not right this moment. And I don't know if maybe this resonates with you too. Were you the one in school growing up where you would get the job done, but you were always right at the last minute? I remember that I would stay up sometimes until 2 in the morning doing a class project that I had 6 weeks to do, but I got it done, but it'd always be this huge stressful thing for some reason. And it was a pattern that I was living in of this procrastination thing. And even when I look on YouTube, back in 2017, before I went daily on YouTube, for 2 or 3 years, I knew that it was going to be my passion to be on YouTube and to help people become aware of the different things I share on this channel. But I didn't put out content. And one of the reasons being is I was procrastinating. I was knowing I was going to do it, but I was just waiting. I was just waiting. What was I waiting for? I don't even know. It was just a pattern that I had, and I would feel frustrated. I would feel blocked. I was working that 9-to-5 job I wasn't passionate about, and I'd go in and I'd get pain of like not loving what I do and then feeling frustrated and then beat myself up because I didn't do something I knew I should be doing. So with procrastination, once I learned the energy dynamics of procrastination, and also once I read this one book, it was called Psycho-Cybernetics. It was a book by Maxwell Maltz, and it was about the power of your self-image. That's when everything started to change for me. I learned about the power of self-image. Now, to explain this, think about and let's understand what the vibration of procrastination really is. Now, procrastination is that of an energy that is doing anything it can to keep us where we are. So when we think about our ego, let's understand what the ego's job is when it comes to manifesting our dream life. Now, let's take this a step further back too. Let's get a little bit esoteric. Are you guys down for some esoteric stuff? If so, like the video. Let me know if you down, if you one of those die hard, ride hard for esoterics, okay? Now, the way that reality works through many ancient texts, through that of the Dolores Cannon books, many other books that talk about the spirituality and like who we are as greater beings, is we are eternal spiritual beings living temporary human experiences. So in our essence, in our true vastness of who we are, we go through a process of forgetting who we are to come to this reality so that we can go through a process of remembering who we are. Now, one of the things that happens when we do that is because we forget who we are, we then live in this ego, we call this like an avatar structure. This body that we are in is a mechanism we use to interpret our reality. We have sight, hearing, touching, feeling, smelling, tasting. These are all the different ways that we interpret our reality. Now, it's done through our body, and there's an aspect of ourselves called our ego. Now, our ego is the part of us that does everything it can to help us survive. And there's this whole dialogue with like the higher self and that of the ego. They're both aspects of ourselves. The ego isn't horrible. The ego is just doing its job, and its job of the ego is to survive. Now, the challenge and the reason people have such problems when it comes to procrastination, the other ones we're talking about here, is because the ego wants to stay in familiar energy. The ego wants to stay in what feels safe, even if what feels safe isn't preferable. When I was working that job selling women's shoes, I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't passionate about it. If anything, I had corporate politics and all this BS I had to deal with, and I didn't enjoy it. But it was safe. It was familiar. It felt normal for me to be in that dynamic, and that was what my ego was fighting for. So here is what the real issue is, and I'll bring each of these back to the core issue. The core issue is what is called the old identity. The old identity. What is happening is the old identity knows that if you were to begin taking action in whatever it is that would manifest your dream life, your ego knows that if you were to do that, you would get into the unknown, and it would require a new aspect of self to which the ego gets uncomfortable thinking about, because the ego just wants to remain the same. So in essence, what procrastination is it's your ego's rigidity with the past, with wanting to stay the same. So recognize that. Recognize that first out, because once you recognize what procrastination is, you can then say, oh, I'm procrastinating because if I were to really excel, if I were to really put my all into manifesting my dream life, my life would change. And then look at this as well. The ego may find a lot of comfort in the kind of friends that you're around, the kind of dynamics you have with family members and your daily life routine. Imagine you started to up-level yourself and you started to manifest your dream life, and then maybe you don't resonate with some of your friends like you used to. Happens a lot when you go through spiritual awakening. And the reason I share this right now is because there's these little micro things within us that might be holding us back that we may not be aware of. And the reason we're not aware of it is just because we haven't brought it into the light yet. One of the biggest things that blocks us from really going into our dream life is we're afraid we're going to leave people behind. Our friends, our family. We're afraid that we're going to become egotistical and have a whole bunch, we're either afraid of failure, or some people are even afraid of success because they don't want to leave people behind. There are people that have trouble losing weight because they are attached to the old identity, but also maybe they have friends that also are overweight with them, and they're afraid that if they lose the weight, they're then going to get into that of things they're passionate about, and they're going to leave all their friends behind. There was an episode of this on Family Guy. You guys ever seen the episode or the show Family Guy? But there's this one episode where Joe, who's this guy in a wheelchair, who's like a cop and stuff, he goes through a process of getting surgery done, and he gets his legs back, and all of a sudden he wants to go on his bike, he's going rock climbing, he's doing all these extreme stuff, and he leaves his other two friends behind because now he's got this whole new he realizes he was only settling with his other two friends, with Peter and Quagmire, because he was not able to walk, and he was kind of settling in that way. But then he had his legs back, and all of a sudden, screw you guys, and he went to go do all that stuff. But maybe in a way, what happens is, in a metaphorical way, we are afraid of leaving our friends behind, afraid of leaving other people behind. So what we do is we want to stay safe. We also don't want to challenge people to think about us in a new way. So if you've always been a doormat, or somebody that people take advantage of, or you don't know where your boundaries are, or you always say yes to things, and if you were to start saying no, you don't want to put people through the uncomfortability of you're going to get questioned. You don't want them to be disappointed. So the things that are holding you back from manifesting and attracting your dream life, one of the biggest ones is procrastination. But realize that what procrastination is doing is it's giving you a payoff. Anything we do because we're either moving away from pain or we're moving towards pleasure. A payoff is something that we are energetically getting from some type of even negative thing. So the payoff from procrastination is the familiar of sameness. It's the familiar of, I'm still safe. I haven't moved too far beyond yet. So this is about becoming aware of the patterns and realizing that we all have an old identity that wants to remain the same. So realize this. Your identity is a flexible noodle. This was a life-changing thing for me. And 2012, when I learned and read the book Psycho-Cybernetics about self-image, I realized that my self-image, I was being and acting equal to me being a mediocre sales employee selling women's shoes. At the end of the day, I was always the list of top salespeople from the day before. I was always right in the middle. Wasn't at the top, wasn't at the bottom. I was right in the middle. That was my self-image. Then I started to see myself. I started to think, feel, and act equal to me being me being a really engaged top salesperson. Guess what happened within a couple days? Became a top salesperson. Why? Because I started being a different version of me. I let go of the old version of me that was being a mediocre employee, a mediocre sales guy, and I started becoming and being a top salesperson. Then I used that same philosophy to go full-time on YouTube. So realize your old identity thinks, feels, and acts equal to that of what feels familiar, what in the past you've decided who you are. So that's one of the main things you want to become aware of is what is your past identity? And then give yourself permission to be the new identity, to step into the unknown, to go for it. To realize that when you start doing this, by the way, you do it repetitiously, it becomes easy. When I was making daily videos on YouTube in 2017, at first it was kind of hard for like a week or two. And then people would ask me, I remember YouTubers asking me as I started to grow, they're like, how do you make videos every single day on YouTube? It was natural for this identity. It was natural for me. It was easy. It was just a part of who I am. I didn't have to try. The only thing that will hold you back more than anything is the addiction to the familiar. But understand this. The more you do anything, the more familiar it becomes. So you might say that going after something you're really passionate about, or creating that blog, or even making videos, or creating the content, or going after that job that maybe you don't think you're worthy of, whatever it is, the more you step out of your comfort zone, the more you expand your comfort zone, and the more it becomes natural for you. So that's one of the biggest blocks, has to do with procrastination. Now, another huge one is that of perfectionism. Perfectionism. If you feel like a perfectionist, comment below and like this video. I want to see how many people resonate with these blocks. So perfectionism. Perfectionism is a very similar type energy dynamic with the old identity. Now, perfectionism says anything I do, it has to be perfect. I'm going to set the bar so high that I probably procrastinate. Do you see that? One of the things that happens is these two are tied into each other. Because people that are procrastinating or have a perfectionism mentality, the reason they don't take action and the reason they procrastinate is because what if it's not good enough? What if I fail? What if it's not up to my standards? What if it's not up to other people's standards? And what you want to do is realize it's the same core issue. There's an old identity here that's trying to keep you safe. Now, let's take this back to probably where the core wound comes from. I'm going to say something to all you perfectionists out there. When you were a kid, did you ever get in trouble or criticized for doing something or being a certain way? Now, most of us could say, well, probably every kid has had that. But did you ever take that to heart? Because what happens is as kids, when we have critical parents or a critical environment growing up and we feel shame, I did something wrong. I did not do that correctly. I remember with my ex-stepmom, one thing that happened is right when she first moved in with my dad, I started to get to know her. One of the first big blowouts she had where she it's probably a red flag, but my dad didn't see it. I was too young. I was like 7 or 8 years old. She had this whole cupboard inside the kitchen that was had cans in it, like beans and green beans and it's back in the day in the 90s, I guess, the late 90s when it was a lot canned food is I guess still a big thing, but anyways, a whole bunch of canned food. What I did is it was kind of messy, and we were starting to have to do a lot of chores with my ex-stepmom, but I wanted to please and I wanted to be a good boy, so I did something above and beyond. I went into the cupboard and I organized it the way I thought it should be organized. And I was so proud of it. I thought it was so cool that I outdid myself. I did something I wasn't even asked to do. They were like not around, and I organized the cans into a certain way. And then what happens is I took my ex-stepmom and I said, look what I did. I did the cans in this new way. And she goes, oh my God, she freaked the fuck out. She freaked out. And I was like, oh, I did something wrong. I was trying to do this good thing. And I remember later on, because that was still, we went to our mom's house, our real mom's house. And I remember I showed my mom and told my mom about that. And she was like, we were all laughing about it. I was like 7 or 8 years old. I don't really remember. I remember that though. And she freaked out about it. And I remember that in that moment, it's like, oh, whatever I did, whatever I think is good enough isn't good enough. It's not acceptable. All right? So I share that story because in the moment, we decided when we were kids that whatever we were doing wasn't good enough. And what happens is what perfectionism is, it's setting ourselves to a very high standard because we're saying, I wasn't good enough when I was a kid, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be perfect. Not one little flaw. But the challenge is that perfectionism, that little flaw you don't want to have, is holding you back from the success and manifesting the dream life. Realize that here's the key and here's the cure to this. How would you even know if something you do is good enough? What is good enough? Let me ask you this question. Who do you have to be good enough? And the reason I say that is because many of you watching this episode, this video, perfectionism is a feeling of not being good enough. And for myself, I remember, even when I first got on YouTube, I was going to start making videos, but I didn't because I was the perfectionist and I was procrastinating because I was perfectionist. So you want to know what happened? I was watching Ralph Smart on YouTube, who has a YouTube channel, and I remember watching him back in 2016, 2017. And I remember thinking like, okay, he's got videos, and all of his videos are mainly just him in front of the camera like this. But one thing that held me back, because I thought, well, he does that. There's a reason he could do that, but I can't do that because I have to add in crazy editing. I have to have cool music. I have to add in all this other stuff because I'm not good enough just the way I am. So that held me back for a long time because I didn't think I could just put talking head videos like this in and people would actually watch them. But what I eventually did is I realized the pain got so strong for me that I realized I don't want to stay the same anymore. I was working that 9-to-5 job and I started to get certain reflections. I had to suck up to get the schedule I wanted. I got talked down to really bad by upper management where I got brought into the office and like shamed for being on my phone when it was like slow. Like literally for like 5 hours you won't see a single customer. So what we'd do is selling women's shoes. I'd have one of us would be on the sales floor with no customers and the other one would be in the back and would be on our phones. We'd take turns. So on my phone one time, like many times, and everyone in the freaking store was on their phone all the time because it was so damn slow. The price point of an average shoe was $800 to like $1,200 for one pair of shoes. So what happened is they brought me into the office and they said, Aaron, we want you to look at this. They had me look at a video of me on my phone and the camera was pointing straight down. I could see what I was looking at on Instagram. It was from like a week earlier. And what happened is they were saying, we want you to watch this video. So I watched a minute of it. I said, okay, I get the point. I won't be on my phone anymore. They said, no, Aaron. We want you to watch the entire video. I sat there with the store manager, my department manager, and the HR manager, and they wanted me to watch myself and what I was scrolling through on Instagram. Now, I get that what they were probably doing is they wanted me to feel a lot of pain and embarrassment so I wouldn't do it again. But I felt so degraded and so shamed in that moment. I told them, I said, I'm not watching this whole 5-minute video. I get the point. You can either write me up or whatever you're going to do, but I'm not going to watch this whole thing. I actually said that. And then they stopped it, and then they wrote me up, and then I just told them if I ever get my phone again, even though most of my business was done through my phone, that I would get fired. In that moment, though, I decided something. I said, okay, there's someday soon, I am not going to be working for somebody else that is telling me what to do. I used that pain as a motivating force, as fuel for me to finally start manifesting my dream life, finally start taking action. And what happened is that helped me, propelled me to get out of the familiar. What you want to do is you want to start to see pain with the familiar of if you stay perfectionist, if you keep procrastinating, where will you be in a year from now? Where will you be in 5 years from now? Because when I was working that 9-to-5 job, I had people that were 5, 10, 15, 20 years older than me that were still selling women's shoes that weren't passionate about it. There's nothing wrong with selling women's shoes. I had people I worked with that loved it. Good for them. It wasn't my passion. But there were people that just worked there out of familiarity, out of comfort, because it was a paycheck. And they hated it. I thought that will be me in 10, 15 years unless I do something. And I used that as motivation. So for you to manifest your dream life, let this video be the road where you have this splitting decision right now you can make. And the decision you can make is to either go back into the familiar and just kind of think about all this stuff as nice mind candy, or you can make the choice to finally go for it. Realize that perfectionism is just this thing in the mind that is holding you back from actually taking action because you're afraid that if you do take action, you're going to be in the unknown. You're not going to be in the familiar territory anymore. Perfectionism is also trying to hide. You're trying to hide not being good enough. I got news for you. You are good enough. And you just taking action is good enough. Me just making videos with talking head videos like this was good enough and is good enough. You have to give yourself permission to be good enough. And knowing that you are from the moment you start. So one of the most powerful things you can do starting today is realize perfectionism is an outdated belief and an outdated mechanism that is trying to keep you from being a bad person, from making a mistake, from having a flaw. And realize you can give yourself permission to be good enough. And that you are good enough the way you are. And that by taking consistent action, you will manifest your dream life. And it's okay if it's not perfect. The first 10 to 20, 30 videos I made on YouTube, they're very cringy. And it was like very unnatural. But the more I did it, the more natural it became. The more I could move my hands like this and not feel like a weirdo. I remember the first time on YouTube I ever asked for somebody to subscribe or like the video. I was like, okay guys, adding value, adding value, adding value, adding value. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Could you guys please like the video below? It was so weird for me to say because I felt so unworthy. How can I even ask for somebody to like the video? But the more you do anything, the more comfortable you get. And right now what you can begin to do is to realize you are good enough, and the thing holding you back is perfectionism, procrastination. It's the old identity that is trying to keep you safe. Perfectionism though is like literally your way of hiding not being good enough when you are good enough, and that making the mistakes is also much more relatable. It is way more relatable for you to make videos where there's mistakes than you being absolutely perfect. I am making my Instagram post of my perfect acai bowl with the strawberries in this constellation and then the blueberries right there with the color grade. Oh, let me find the perfect lighting. Guess what? This video right here, you guys want to know another thing that holds people back from manifesting their dream life is they think that everything has to be perfect. They think they got to be using this freaking camera. I have this camera right here that I could be using to film this video. This is like not trying to brag or anything, but it's like a $3,000 setup. This lens alone is $1,800. This thing up here is like $300-400. This camera is like $1,500 or $1,200. I don't use any of this. You want to know why? It just takes too long and the camera, I don't know, the SIM card thing fills up fast, like whatever. I'm on my iPhone. I'm on my iPhone and a little microphone. It's a super simple setup. But I do that because it's easier. So many of you hold yourselves back from making content, sharing your message, expressing yourself because you think everything has to be perfect. I got to know how to edit. I got to know what it is. You don't have to do any of that. All you got to do is start. All you got to do is start. Start today. Start today. Stop waiting. Okay, so that's the next thing. Now, the next thing I want to share that makes a huge difference is understanding this thing from means versus ends. Means versus ends. Now, when I'm making this video right now, I am passionate about making it, and I am making the video right now because it's my passion. I want to add value, but I'm in the moment, and you could probably feel that. But if I was making this video and I'm like, I really hope this video gets a lot of views. Do you guys like this video? I'm making this video because I have to make this video because I've already committed to 3 times a week. If that is the case, then you will feel that energy off of me. So when I started making videos on YouTube in 2017, I wasn't just making it because the end result of getting the more subscribers and leaving my 9-to-5 job. If I'm honest, it was part of it because I didn't like being in that 9-to-5 job. But the other part of it is it's because it's who I prefer to be. It's who I prefer to be. And what you want to do is start doing things because it's who you prefer to be. If you're going on a date with someone and you want them to like you, you hope that they are enjoying your time with you, if you want their validation, you want them to call you back, whatever, you're being attached to the end result. You're doing things for the end result. You're attached to outcome. But if instead you're enjoying your time with them, you're saying things you think are funny that also you're playing with them in a way, like the energy dynamic really changes when you're being present to the moment. And you're way more attractive when you're present to the moment. So realize that the key to you doing that is you being present to the moment and letting it be more about the journey. When I'm making this video right now, I'm enjoying the process, and you can absolutely, remember, people feel what you feel. Your energy, when you're choosing to go after your passion, you're being in that vibration, your energy is more attractive. More opportunities come to you. You find you're in the right place at the right time. And that's when you are doing what you are passionate about and you are being who you came here to be. So realize the old identity, you think, feel, and act a certain way, and then your new identity of who you really prefer to be, what this is you making a new choice about who you are and giving yourself permission to be it. That's really the key to everything when it comes to manifesting. The challenge is that we have this past meaning, whether it's perfectionism, I can never make a mistake again because I got pain in childhood. You have to let go of that past meaning. Procrastination, you got to let go of waiting for someone to put you on, of waiting for that. For a long time, even on YouTube. Before I was even on YouTube, I was working that 9-to-5 job and I was like, I'm going to meet famous people that are going to see this potential in me. They're going to put me on. I'm going to meet Tony Robbins. I'm going to meet Jack Canfield and all these people. I ended up actually meeting Jack Canfield. And I was like thinking, oh, this is my big break. I just met him. I helped him with clothes. But what happened? Well, he gave me his business card and he said, if you come to I was like, wow, Jack Canfield, I recognized who he was when I saw his Black American Express card. And I was like, I'm going to do what you do one day. It was so cheesy. And he's like, well, actually, I do this thing called training the teachers or something, or training the trainers. And it's in Scottsdale. It's $20,000. I didn't have $20,000. And but I remember, like, I met him and it was a cool little interaction. I still have his business card somewhere in a Ziploc baggie that I preserved just to show. And also 2-3 years later, I got invited to one of his events to actually like be at one of his mastermind things or something. It was just how full circle things have come. And it's very interesting, but I was waiting to be put on. Now, one of the other things I want to mention, and this is going to sound harsh to some of you because some of you are in a level of consciousness to where it's like all about flow and ease, and that is a part of it, but the other part of that is that stop waiting and start taking action. Take action. I took massive action back in 2017. My life changed. Doesn't mean take action from a resistant place. When you take action doing what you love, it is natural, it is easy, and it is fun. But a common thing that has happened is people are in this like spiritual mode where it's like this mode of like just waiting and waiting and waiting. The way they're going to manifest is just by waiting. And it's like, that's what's also keeping you stuck. Stop waiting and start being. The more you take action, the more familiar it becomes, the more you actually enjoy it. I love what I do. I love taking action, and I'm doing it because it's equal to my identity. When you put things on a pedestal, it's saying that old identity, it's not natural for you. But when you just step into it and you just know and you let your thoughts, your emotions, your actions be equal to this new way that you choose to be, you'll find that your life changes in a very, very powerful way. But remember, you are an eternal spiritual being living a temporary human experience. And what happens is your ego mechanism is just trying to stay safe. The problem with not the blocks to manifest your dream life is there's an old identity that is fighting to keep things familiar. What you want to do is become aware of the perfectionism. Realize all that is from childhood. What has happened is you were in trouble in childhood, you got criticized, and you decided, I'll never make a mistake again. I'm going to be perfect. But realize there is no true definition of perfectionism. It doesn't exist. Through action, through taking action, through making the choice to start, you then get better, better, and better. It's not the end result. It's a process you go through. Realize that with procrastination, if you're waiting, it's because your old identity is using a mechanism to keep you where you are, to keep you safe in the familiar. Make the choice. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Just go. Just make a new choice about who you are. And then means versus ends. Be in the present moment. Realize that when you're doing things for an end of itself, you're being present, you're enjoying the moment, you're in your body, that then you have the most magnetic energy that you can even imagine, and that changes everything. Now, for this year, I do have something. It's the 6 steps to completely transform your life. I bring you through what is called the Shift Framework. It's one of the most powerful episodes I have, videos I have. If you haven't checked it out yet, go ahead and check it out here. This episode, I'm going to show you the 6 steps that you can use to completely transform your life in 2022. I'm sure you've noticed 2021 has been a massive year of shadow work, a massive year of letting go.